Good evening, everyone. Good morning, whatever it is with you, and welcome to the live kitesurf question and answer session, where we'll be going through any questions that you've got on kitesurfing, not relationships. Keep it to kitesurfing. I am not the man to ask about relationship advice. Absolutely not. But if you've got a kitesurfing question, I am your man. Now, usual format, if you've got a question, stick it in the chat and I will come to it when I come to it. As I say, sometimes the chat moves really fast. Sometimes, for whatever reason, the question just doesn't show up. So if that's the case and I seem to be ignoring you, just keep asking the question and I will get to it as soon as I can. Okay, I'll get to it. Eventually, YouTube will show me the question, so it'll work that way. Now, as always, excuse me, I'll sort my screens out. Now, we've got a few questions in the hopper. At least one here. So I'll get started off. This is going to be a quicker session, guys. This is just a half-hour session today because I've got to run off at 6:30, I'm afraid. I've got another appointment. So if you do have questions, get them in nice and early because I say 6:30, I have a hard exit, I'm afraid. So starting off, I'll start bashing through these. Romain asks, about to sign up for an IKO assistant instructor course in Cabaretti for January. Do you have any advice, feedback, or any things you want to share about it? I'm only going to get the Assistant Plus for now, train more after it, and maybe do the instructor course in March. Yeah, Romain, go for it, mate. It's awesome. It's a really, really good course. I don't know who does them down there in Cabaretti. Could well be a mate of mine, Vince. If it is, you are in very, very good hands. He's a legend. Silly haircut, but a legend. But yeah, basically the course itself, don't get too stressed about it. Don't get too stressed about it is the key. What I would say about the IKO, they are looking for safety. Most people stress out on these courses about like, oh, the technical stuff, as in, am I going to be good enough rider? Teaching style, things like this. The key thing they are looking for is are you a decent representative of the IKO? Are you a decent person? Are you going to scream and shout at your students? Are you going to get loads of complaints about you? Are you going to be a bad ambassador for kite surfing and for the IKO? And if you are, that's what they'll fail you on. The other thing they're looking for is, are you safe? They're the two key crucial aspects. Apart from that, I would say really, you cannot really go wrong on it. Not that you can't go wrong. That's a lie. They will, like if you are struggling for the technical knowledge, the technical side of things, they will give you more hours of shadowing and things like this. But you've got to realize they are not there to fail you. They are there to pass you. You have to actively do something to cause them to fail you. Because what they want to give you, okay, they want to see that you're safe and that you're a decent person so that they can send you out with the knowledge that you will have, knowing that you will go to a school and you will learn on the job as well. Like any of these courses, you do any sort of course, and most of the training actually comes on the job. The actual instructional course, if you like, is just to get you up to speed, the minimum level needed. And it's the same here. So don't stress it is the big one. Don't go in there thinking, oh my God, everything is being assessed and they're looking to fail me. No, they're not. They're really not. It's one of these things. It's not how it is, but you can understand what I'm saying. It's one of these things where you almost passed or failed before you walk through the door. They're almost assessing you from the first second hour. They seem like a decent person. They seem like a decent person. That one, I'm not sure about, because they can't get on with people, or they like to shout too much, or they're just not a people person. Why are they doing this job? They're only doing this job because they want to go kite surfing all the time. They don't actually know interested in the teaching. So I would say they're the things that you need to be looking at. The other thing I would raise to anyone looking to be an instructor, the first thing I would raise is look at your motivation for doing it. Are you wanting to become an instructor because you want to be an instructor? You really want to teach people? You really enjoy teaching, coaching people? Or are you being an instructor because you want to kite surf a lot? Because if it's the second one, I would say go and get a bar job, because you'll kite surf more. Yeah, sure, being an instructor, you'll be down the beach an awful lot. You'll be surrounded by kites. You'll get a huge amount of knowledge, and it's an awesome, awesome job. But if you really want to just kite surf, going back to my time in Tenerife, the time I kited the most was when I was working in the bar, because you start work at 8 o'clock. So you've got every afternoon free. So you can go kite surfing from 2 o'clock till 7 o'clock and then go to work. So again, this is something I always put to people before they go down this route, is just look at your motives for doing the job in the first place. If you enjoy teaching, you enjoy coaching, and you get a buzz out of coaching, I don't think there's a better job in the world, to be honest. You're outside, you're in the elements, you're doing what you love. You're on the beach, for God's sake. I'm assuming you're a bloke. There's girls around you all wearing bikinis. It's amazing all the time. If you're a girl, there's blokes, you know, with the six packs out. It's amazing, whichever sex you are. So yeah, in that sense, there's not a better job in the world. But if you do not like teaching, it can be hellish. Believe me, you know, when you're on your third shift of the day, so you've already done 6 hours, and some of the client rocks up and asks you the same questions over and over and over and over again. Cannot launch or land the kite, or the wind goes naff and you've got to pretend to, you know, you put a smile on your face and, oh, there's nothing wrong, it's all fine, la la la. You know, that's when it gets difficult. So you really have to enjoy the teaching side of it, enjoy the people side of it as well, I would say. So so yeah, and I'll just have a quick look at your motivations for actually doing it in the first place would be my top one there. Okay, guys, that's all we've got in the hopper. So I can see there's loads of people on this stream now. So if you've got any questions for me, as I say, this is a shorter one. I have to nip off at 1:30. We've got literally 25 minutes left. So if you do have any questions, get them in nice and quick, so we can go through them. If not, I'll keep talking about the instructor, because it's an awesome topic. It's an awesome topic. So just let me know in the chat if you've got any questions, guys. Let me just check that I can see the chat, and the chat is working. Let me just... Yeah, we're good to go. We are good to go. Okay, guys, chat is working. So any questions in the chat, and let's go from there. But yeah, going back to being an instructor, I would say that the advantages of the other kind of debate that I want to bring up here is the IKO versus other methods of certification. Now, I would recommend absolutely the IKO. It's the route I went down, and it's still the most recognized. But be aware that in a lot of countries, they are starting, and this has started in Spain, you know, in Tarifa, which is probably like what's going to become the benchmark. And I've probably mentioned this before, but I'm not sure I've mentioned it to you before. So if you are looking at, you know, IKO versus, let's say, BKSA or FAV or the German VKWS, whatever it is, some of them now, like in Tarifa, they are trying to enforce that you need to have the Spanish qualification to work there. Still haven't managed to do it, and I don't think they actually will. But what happened last year was a load of instructors paid a load of money to retrain as a FAV instructor, because that was what officially they thought the law was going to change. Now, in the end, it didn't. But just double check the location where you want to teach, as well as to what is actually valid there, because it changes by location. Like I know Spain. I know in Spain they're trying to change. I think in the UK you need at least the BKSA add-on, which they still work with the IKO. They still recognise that, but the BKSA add-on, when I did it, was like a day extra, which just covered all the UK legislation. So you need to know it. It was just things like about how to avoid getting sued, and, you know, health and safety, not touching people, all these things that we have in the UK, because it's gone, you know, suing crazy. They obviously don't have that in Spain. As you will see if you ever go to a Spanish beach and watch the instructors teaching there, they are very much touching the students, especially if it happens to be a girl. So, but yeah, it is worth checking where you want to teach as to what qualifications are recognized there. Now, in most places, 99.9% of places, that will be IKO. But it is starting to change. And in Spain, I know the IKO weren't very quick at kind of getting it on top of this and making sure they had their foot in the door. The FAV kind of got in there before them. So hopefully they're a bit more on it now, and hopefully they are getting their foot in the door in all these places that are starting to do that. But Tarifa is one of the places where, you know, where they go today, a lot of the other kite surfing resorts kind of go tomorrow, because it's kind of one of the leaders in this, because obviously it's the busiest place in the world for it. So it's just useful to know that looking forward, what might be on some of the beaches around the world. Okay. Hi there, Mr. Phoenix. How are you, sir? Not a problem. I love doing these chats. It's great fun. Any experience with Nash? Strutless kite for light wind. Not the Nash one. I haven't got any experience with the Nash. I haven't. I've got experience with strutless kites for light wind foiling. I have. Okay, I love them to ride. I think they're amazing to ride. My experience with them as well was teaching with them. So let me break it down. To ride, awesome. You know, super powerful, really easy turning. Do not feel. This is the shit kite surfers talk, isn't it? Feels like a 17, feels like a 12, but it genuinely does. You know, especially if you're used to like the older 12s. I mean, kites these days have speeded up massively from what they were even 4 or 5 years ago. So, you know, for someone who's ridden the old style 12s to get on a 17, well, this turns faster than my old 12. They really don't feel like big kites. The downside of strutless kites comes when you crash them in any kind of chop or when you crash them awkwardly, because the strut obviously holds the canopy out of the water generally and gives the kite some shape. Now, because you've got 17 meters of canopy without any kind of structure, you know, just the structure given by the leading edge, it tends to fold on itself very, very easily. And it also means the water sits in the bottom of it like a bag and really holds it onto the water very, very easily. So it becomes much more difficult to relaunch, and it can become, you know, a bit of a twisted nightmare on the water that's never going to relaunch, or is only going to relaunch with a lot of prayer. But as the actual kite, I love them. I really, really love them to fly. Would I go 17 meter strutless or foil kite? That would be where I would start to question what exactly I was going to do it with. Light wind foiling, I would probably go foil kite. Why? Because the light wind kites tend to be really grunty, which isn't necessarily what you want for a foil, you know. So you fly them through the window to water start and they really just slam on the power really, really quickly, which can, again, depending how experienced a foil you are. I'm not a very good foil boarder. So for me, I found it a little bit too much to handle at that point, whereas a foil kite obviously puts the power on much smoother, and it's much easier to control the power as the kite's moving. So I found for that, for light wind foiling, for me as a beginner foiler, I found the foil kites much more forgiving. The light wind kites, the 17 meter light, zero strut light wind kites, I think are amazing for kind of twin tip riding, race boards, surfboards, things like that. Absolutely awesome. For foil boards, if you're good, absolutely no problems. If you're half good, you know, I'm useless. But if you're still learning, still in that learning curve, I would suggest it might make your life a little bit more difficult, depending on the wind as well. It depends how the wind, you know, where I was learning and the wind was a little bit on and off, which meant that it made it even more difficult to judge what was going on. The kite could suddenly just fling you out over the top, or, you know, you'd just dolphin dive out of the water because you wouldn't control the power properly. So that would be my kind of take on it. Great, awesome kite. For me personally, slightly better suited to kind of twin tip riding and more aggressive riding. The foil kites, I think, are slightly more forgiving for foil boarding. So that would be my kind of take on that. Hi, Alvaro. It's going good, mate. It's going very good. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Kahuna pulls more like a 9. Yeah, for sure. The Kahuna is a powerful kite, yeah, because it's lacking that center strut. Now, a kite only generates lift really from the center of the kite. Okay, I'm not going to go into kite dynamics now, but literally the center part of the kite is what's, so on most kites, kind of the bit between the outside struts. Because of the, okay, yeah, cool. Anticipating my answer, yeah, perfect. So yeah, so the top, the central strut, if the central panel, if you like, or the central, what would normally be the central 2 panels, are the only parts that are actually generating lift. The wings are just stabilizing the kite. Let me see if I can draw this for you. I've got a bit of paper here. So let's use the example of a sea kite because it's a bit easy to visualize. So you've got a sea kite here. Now, a sea kite generates lift like that. So you can see it's not all generating lift upwards. A sea kite is only generating upwards lift in this part of the kite. These parts stabilize the kite, which is why a sea kite is so stable. A sea kite is much more stable than a bow kite or a foil kite, which is almost flat, because it's got these built-in stabilizers on either side, because the lift is being generated outwards. So the whole kite stabilizes itself, so to speak. Whereas on a foil kite, you've got lift going up. So on a flat wing, you've only got lift in one direction. So you've got no stabilizers, which is why when you see a foil kite and they start to turn, they often crumple at the wings. You know, they often actually collapse at the wings because they've got no stabilizers, so to speak. The wing just collapses when you start to turn the kite. So the same with the kahuna. So when you've got the kahuna, let's say only this part is generating power. Yeah, the center part of the kite. So when you remove that center strut, because all struts do, yeah, they give the kite more stability, but they also create more drag. They create more turbulent flow over the kite because it's an obstacle on the kite. So they make the kite less efficient as a wing. So when you stick a dirty great strut in the middle of the lift generating part of the kite, it reduces the amount of power that kite generates, or the amount of lift that kite generates. So by removing that center strut in the kahuna, what they've done is they've cleaned up this part of the kite and made it pull harder. So yeah, this is why the 8.5 kahuna pulls more like a 9. And we used to use these in the school. Awesome kites. Really, really like the kites. And yeah, they do. They're grunty kites because of that. You know, you put up an 8.5, like, whoa, there's more power on this than on my 10 meter of some of the kites, you know, because they're just so nice and powered on the middle because they're missing that center strut. So yeah, hope you understood my artwork there and hope that makes sense. Feel free to come back on any questions on that one, mate. Okay, guys, as I say, I've got to shoot off early tonight, so we've literally got sort of 10 minutes left. So if you've got any questions, please speak now or forever hold your peace. And Alvaro, if you've got any comebacks on that one, mate, if that doesn't make sense, any part of that, just let me know and I will cover that a bit more. Again, Mr. Phoenix, if you've got anything to add to what I just said there, feel free. Cool. Made sense. Perfect. So this again, as you can see, why bow kites are generally more grunty than sea kites. You know, but sea kites are more stable. And this is why the pros go for sea kites, because they're not going to suddenly collapse halfway through a mega loop or something like that, because they've got the stabilizers on the side, which a bow kite, it has, but to a lot lesser extent. Do that, mate. Yes, I'm looking forward to that as well. Let me know. So you can start to understand. And I do not confess to understand it fully. Well, no one on the planet understands it fully because we still don't know why a kite flies. So no one understands this fully. But this is why kite kind of profile or kite shape, whatever you would call it, you know, the way you look at a kite from. Ideally, what you want to be able to do eventually is just look at a kite and be able to tell that's how it's going to perform. You know, and you can do that very much. You can look at a kite and with a few tweaks, often laying it next to another, you know, comparing it next to another kite, you can tell, right, that kite's going to be more grunty than that one. That's going to fly further forward in the window. That one's going to sit further back. That one's going to have more bar pressure. That one's going to have less bar pressure. Just by looking at how the kite's designed. And this is where all these little things like, well, what difference does 3 struts to 5 struts make? Well, 3 struts makes it more powerful, but 5 struts is going to make it more stable. Greetings, Nicola. How are you? Great to have you here, all the way from Abu Dhabi. But it's a bit warmer with you than it is with us at the moment. Any more? Cool, we've got 10 minutes left. Keep me talking for 10 minutes. Oh, that's a good question, Nicola. That is a good question. Ideally, as low as you possibly can. Why? Because the lower you can get it, the greater angle you can resist it with the board. In theory. However, there comes a point. Let me just check that you understand that. So as I've got the kite up here, as I bring the kite further up, I get pulled off my edge naturally. I naturally get pulled upwards, which reduces the amount of edge in the water and tends to drag me off downwind. Means I've got less power to resist that kite. So ideally, in a perfect world, I would get it as low as possible so that I can get really dig the edge in and resist the kite as much as I possibly can. Now, having said that, there comes a point where that's just impossible. Where your board is just going to skip out too much. You just haven't got enough power in your back leg to hold the board down. And you've got no option at that point but to bring the kite up and just pray, realistic. I've been out times and you just, okay, no hands. No hands. I'm not in control anymore. And this happens as well. And in that case, there's not a lot you can do, just hope, really. What I often do in that situation is just purposefully crash. Bum drag, stick your bum in the water, get anything you can, jam a hand in the water, whatever, to try and slow you down at that point. So yeah, again, for a beginner, you're not that's crazy anyway. 17 and 20 knots, that's going to be crazy whoever you are. And I would suggest at that speed, you've got to factor in chop as well. It's going to be quite choppy. As soon as you get to 20 knots, the water state's going to be choppy. So if you try and have the kite down low, your board is going to be bouncing out of the water as well, rather than slicing through it. On flat water, you might get away with that. But as soon as it starts to get choppy, you're going to be bouncing out over and downwind, and then it's really difficult to hold on to it from there as well. So yeah, it's tough. The correct answer, I should say, is go back in and change your kite before it gets to that. Not always possible, obviously. But yeah, that would be that's the textbook answer. You get it down as low as you possibly can, dig in as hard as you can, and pray to God that you've got enough power. You've got enough power in your back leg to hold on to it. But you also kind of instinctively know if you can do that or not. Generally, maybe not as a beginner, but you do after a little bit of time. Very quickly you get a feel for, can I actually hold this or not? And if you can't, there's not a lot you can do. Bring it up to 12, jam anything you can into the water, and just try and slow yourself down by any means possible. Another trick you can try, and this is something that you have to come down to experience, is bear off downwind straight towards the kite. Because by doing that, you're catching the kite up and reducing the apparent wind in the kite. Now, if there's tons of wind, that's not going to work, because it's going to pick the kite up and take you cahooning off downwind. So it's something, again, to be used with judgment. Is this going to slow me down, or is it just going to leave me even less in control because now I've got no edge engaged? So they're kind of your options, I would say, at that point. Jesus, that is awesome, Nicola. That is awesome. That is spot on, mate. Really glad to hear it. Really glad to hear it. That's awesome. Okay, just let me know if that's made sense, Nicola, and if you've got any comeback on that. That would be awesome. Just starting out, what's that fine, but then end up sliding sideways downwind until I wipe out. If I try and edge harder, I stop and wipe out. I'm actually going to do the next video I do for YouTube is going to be on this. I think I covered this slide in one of these question answer sessions at the beginning. Maybe if you just check back, I think it was maybe about 4 weeks ago. And we started talking about the 2 types of water start. Now, basically what you're doing here is you're starting too fast. Sliding sideways, the kite is staying too high. So you're staying and you're leaving the kite at kind of 11, 10:30. So at that point, just like we just talked about, you're being pulled up onto the edge rather than driving the edge in. You're being pulled flat on the board and then being pulled downwind. Or you're trying to start too fast. So you're generally, the reason for this is that you are not getting small enough before the water start begins. You're starting out quite tall, or you're standing up very, very quickly, which means you need a huge amount of power through the kite. So you're really having to work the kite because you're quite a long lever to get yourself out of the water. So when you do stand up, you are going like a man being shot out of a cannon. If you look at the really, really good guys, they come up really slowly. And the way they do that is because they're so small. They're so tiny, you know, their shoulders are in front of their knees when they're water starting, that they really need very little power through the kite, and you can almost start riding upwind straight away. You still ride downwind a little bit, but you come up very, very slowly and very much in control. Whereas I would suggest what you're probably doing is you're probably being too big in the water, i.e. you're too long in the water. You know, you're laying out, your legs are straight, you're laid back, you're wanging tons of power through the kite, and you're coming up, again, like a man being shot out of a cannon. So that would probably be where I would start to diagnose it. May not be. Again, let me know in the comments if that sounds about right, because there are several other things that can be as well. But that would be my place to start with that one. So again, just come back to me on that one, Graham. Oh, great to have you here, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to say hi. But just let me know if that kind of if that rings true with you, or if I'm barking up the wrong tree. "17 meter in 20 knots." They're built for like 4 knots of wind at the 17 meter kites. That's insane. Like it. I think there's a bit of delay on this one, so I apologise if there's a big period of me sitting here looking gormless. Yeah, for sure. And it's the part where, especially as blokes, we struggle. We do, because we're actually physiologically, you know, our hip joints aren't as flexible as women's, so we really struggle to get our legs into that position in the water. We really, obviously, as well, we tend to eat a bit more pies, and can't get our upper torso around our bellies a little bit. But yeah, that's what that would probably be where I would suggest. And this is where I would say 99.9% of water start problems come from. It's nothing to do with the water start, it's nothing to do with the kite. It's to do with the setup. It's that people aren't small enough in the water. Because once you're in the water, especially if you've got a buoyancy aid on and you've got a big harness on, it's very difficult to do, you know, because these things are stopping you from doing that crunch. You know, because it's so easy with an impact vest. Oh, I'll just sit back, I'll relax, I'll chill out, I'm floating. It's all nice. The kite's pulling me up, cool off we go. And my legs are, you know, they're a little bit bent, but they'll do. And because of that, especially as a bloke, because you're generally bigger, you know, we need tons of power to get us out of the water like that. You will be amazed if you crunch down, if you really, really crunch down, you can get out of the water almost without moving the kite. It's unbelievable the difference it makes. So yeah, so I would say anyone who's struggling with the water start, before you start analysing, I mean, I went into this in my video in great detail about where the kite is, where you're putting your legs, where, you know, what you're doing with your feet, what you're doing with your body, what you're doing with your hips, blah, blah, blah. Forget all that to start with. That's great later. Look at how you are setting up for the water start, because 99.9% of problems that I see come from before the water starts even begun. Either the person cannot hold themselves back to wind comfortably in waves, in chop, in gusty winds, or they are not getting themselves small enough before they start. Two absolute top parts where the water start goes wrong. Because if you get them right, the rest of it's actually quite simple. I say quite simple. It's not quite simple, but quite simple in comparison to what most people think, because it suddenly doesn't happen at 4,000 miles an hour. It happens really, really slowly. So yeah, they'd be the two things I would always try and pull people. And this certainly wasn't always the way. You know, I used to analyze this in depth. Oh, the kite's not at this exact angle. You're pulling the bar in a centimetre too much. And it's no help when you're out there in the water, because it's too late to think about that sort of stuff. Look at what you're doing before you start, and actually that stuff just falls into place. Because when you saw it, someone will pick that up. Again, my secretary, my imaginary secretary will get that. So yeah, concentrate on your setup before you start. That's the key. Let me just
Hello, your call cannot be taken at the moment, so please leave your message after the tone. Hello, it's only me ringing.
That's my grandma. It's my grandma. I'll ring her later. I'll ring her later. So yeah, guys. So hope that helps. Hope that covers it. Oh, I've got to go. That's a good timing, Grandma. Just I've got to go. Thank you for that. Professionalism. You've got to love it. You've got to love my professionalism, mate. So I hope that helped you guys. So if you've got any more questions, stick them in the Facebook group. I'll be back again same time next week with any more questions, but I hope that helped a few of you out. And have a great weekend. I will speak to you very soon indeed. Cheers, guys. Goodbye.